What's up, people? Welcome back to the channel Football Therapy with me, your host Jan. I hope you're doing well. I really do hope that in these difficult and turbulent times, is there a world where Roman Abramovich could keep Chelsea? With what's going on, if things progress for the better, could things change? That's a question that's being posed on different media platforms at the moment through Chelsea fans, some people reporting on it in their own media platforms, and I've heard it discussed as a question on the Athletics podcast straight out of Cobham. Fans are wondering, of course, this has come up with surfaced information that Roman Abramovich is indeed is heavily involved in peace talks between Ukraine and Russia and is flying between Kiev and Moscow, whereas originally a lot of people said that's not the case, that's not true, it's false information, it's a PR spin. But I think even Zelensky, the Ukrainian president himself, has confirmed Roman Abramovich is a figure in peace negotiations. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about Cesar Azpilicueta's contract extension. Interesting. Yes, that's right. Do consider subscribing if you're yet to do so, and if you choose to do so, please do hit the bell, it's important, and I appreciate every one of you who decides to like the video. It's just a click of a button, so thank you for doing that. Let's start off with Chelsea's captain, Cesar Azpilicueta. Of course, Rudiger and Christensen's contracts all run out in the summer. Excuse me, so did Thiago Silva. Of course, he has since, since extended his contract for another year. I want to reference a tweet from the Telegraph sport journalist Matt Law, who's of course very well connected to Chelsea. He says, as reported by Mundo Deportivo, of course Spanish publication, Cesar Azpilicueta's Chelsea contract extension, which was agreed, he's suggesting here there is one, which was agreed ahead of the sanctions and not because of the threat of them, etc. So this is something that was discussed prior to the sanctions. Has kicked in because he has made a certain amount of appearances this season. It does not necessarily mean he will stay. So what does that mean? It means he's played a certain amount of appearances this season. That contractually means Chelsea are allowed to trigger an extension clause, if I am understanding this right, in his contract. So Chelsea will have him for another year if they want. That doesn't necessarily mean he will stay, because he might have been in his head, and this is no disrespect to Chelsea from the Chelsea captain, he might have thought in his head, you know what, man, I've made my mind up. I've been at Chelsea for like a decade. I've won everything. I've captained them to a Champions League win. I've won every trophy available. Barcelona are offering me a good, lucrative, long-term-ish contract. I'm a Spanish gentleman. I'm a Spanish international. This is a contract. This is an offer too good to turn down. Do you know what I mean? There could very well be that. But and in that instance, what happens? Chelsea either just let him go for free with their blessing because he's been such an incredible servant, so he gets a bigger sign-on fee or whatever at Barcelona, or Chelsea go, you know what, ownership worries on the financial uncertainty. You've technically still got a year left on your deal, and you're a player that plays at the highest level. We will ask for 10, 15 million pounds for you. You know, at least 10 million. You know, maybe they won't, because there will be a favour to Cesar to make his transfer easier, but that could be a situation where they're like, you know what, mate, you know, you can go, or to be honest, man, like, you know, we love you, but you're our player, we've got you for another year, you can go, but we want to, you know, make a few quid out of this, do you know what I mean? So, either scenario is a possibility at this sense. Right, so let's talk about the ownership. Of course, Roman Abramovich has been spotted in Turkey, in Istanbul, with for the Ukrainian and Russian peace talks. I'm just going to read you a little bit from the BBC article talking about this, giving you some context, and then we'll reference that big question that people are asking. Russian billionaire Roman Abramovich has appeared at peace negotiations between Russia and Ukraine in Turkey. He was seen talking to Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, if I said that right, who was mediating in the talks in Istanbul, mediating between the two nations, of course, Ukraine and Russia. It comes hours after the reports surfaced that Mr Abramovich and two Ukrainian negotiators had shown signs of poisoning after talks in early March. Mr Abramovich is known to have spent weeks in a mediation role flying between Moscow and Kiev. Chelsea Football Club owner was said to have suffered sore eyes and peeling skin, but now has recovered, reports say. A Wall Street Journal report suggested he and the Ukrainian negotiators had been targeted by Russian hardliners. But a Ukrainian presidential official later said the two Ukrainians were fine and one had said the story was false. However, Ukrainian's foreign minister told national TV hours before the talks that he had advised his colleagues attending negotiations with Russia not to eat or drink anything. So from what we understand here is Roman has been mediating in peace talks between Russia and Ukraine. He was linked and reported to have shown symptoms of poisoning with other Ukrainians, and the reports suggest it was Russians who poisoned Roman Abramovich and the Ukrainians, not from the Ukrainian side. So seemingly Roman Abramovich putting himself at risk as a Russian. People don't know Roman Abramovich is of Ukrainian heritage. He had a Ukrainian mother, I believe, and I even read somewhere that he might have been born in Ukraine. I should have fact checked that before I filmed, so please do feel free to correct me or go search yourself. So he's this goes on essentially and talks about the peace talks. And there's a picture released of Mr. Abramovich in the negotiations. So we'll talk about the ramifications of that now. Sorry, I've got a bit of hay fever, hence me clearing my throat quite a lot. So the big question is, what if there's a political resolution in this invasion? I was going to call it conflict, but it's an invasion. There is a lot more complicated facets to the political side of this conflict invasion that I don't know enough about. It's not perhaps as one-sided. I mean, the invasion is abhorrent, and that's what needs to stop. But say there is a political resolution, man. Do you know what I mean? And Roman Abramovich is a figure in that. People are asking throughout this, situation with new ownership, people having, their concerns about potential Saudi ownership, which passed, the Ricketts ownership, which is still a very real threat, which Chelsea fans do not want at all, and just uncertainty of what new owners may bring. Roman Abramovich has not had Chelsea seized from him. It's been frozen as an asset. So people are perhaps connecting lines now. He still owns Chelsea Football Club. It's just frozen as an asset. New owners, there's no obvious. I mean, you could make a very strong case for Todd Boehly being the best option. I think personally, you guys can make your own decisions. So people are thinking, right, it's not necessarily like a sale in like the first week of Frozen. In fact, it's like later next month that the deal needs to be done by. And who knows, that might even get pushed back. Money was still put in or asked to be put in by Roman Abramovich's parent company, Fordstrom, to stabilise Chelsea, which raised some eyebrows. Like, why would he still be putting money into this frozen asset? And of course, he's acting as a mediator, flying between Russia and Ukraine with peace talks. So naturally, understandably, fans have been asking, what if the conflict in Ukraine ends? What if Roman Abramovich is I'm not like the saviour of Ukraine, but what if he's a key factor in resolving this conflict? Would the sanctions be lifted? And would he be given license to continue owning Chelsea Football Club? I completely understand why this is questions coming up. And the truth is, as romantic and nice as it sounds, it's probably very unlikely, highly unlikely. Why people are thinking like I don't think Roman Abramovich is a bad guy. But everyone who's met him said he's quite shy and he's like nice and always wanted to please people. Yes, he's probably done some shady stuff in terms of, making his wealth like a load of businessmen did. But I don't think he wants war in Ukraine. I think he'd probably, if he could, do what he could to stop it, which he's probably doing now. I don't necessarily think he's got, well, if I do this, I'll get my Chelsea back. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I don't even know if it's come into his head, or maybe it has, I don't know. But I think maybe he's just inclined to do what he can to stop an abhorrent war crime. Do you know what I mean? Whereas, and Liam Twomey and Simon Johnson, both of The Athletic, on the Straight Out of Common podcast, they both essentially said highly unlikely. But I understand why people are asking it, and as this story develops with Roman's face being seen with peace negotiations and, stories breaking about him being poisoned and stuff, people might even have a cynical outlook on that, thinking, it could be like a PR spin, but I'm not sure it is, to be honest. I think this is probably what's just going on in a crazy world. And that's where we are at the moment. I understand why people will want Roman to remain Chelsea owner. A lot of people, and I understand why people don't as well. It's a tricky geopolitical climate, and a lot of people are kind of ready for change. I've said it myself. Maybe change would indicate a more sustainable way of Chelsea running, in terms of like maybe a little bit closer to the Liverpool model. Todd Boehly has come out and said a lot of positive things, which has won a lot of Chelsea fans over. Not since his campaign, but like historically, people are watching him talk about football, winning, winning, and being competitive, and pretty much not saying anything bad and not having any skeletons in his closet, which is the opposite to the Ricketts. And with that, more and more people are snowballing their positive opinion about Todd Boehly potentially owning Chelsea Football Club. But could Roman Abramovich retain the club? Almost certainly not, but I completely understand why the question is coming up, and I wanted to reference it because people are talking about it loads in my comment section, on social media, and now it's being talked about on media outlets. Maybe that will snowball, and maybe by the time I upload this video, goes, yeah, Todd Boehly's pretty much had his bid accepted, Chelsea sale is going to go through quicker than we thought. This could happen, you don't know. Let me know what you think though, comment down below, and thank you to everyone who likes and subscribes in the video. It means a lot to me as a content creator, so thank you for that. Keep it locked, I'll upload very, very soon, I'm sure. See you soon.
You ain't so tough with that bad boy talk. I'ma get it how I'm living, I'ma walk the walk. Outline my lines, I rap through thought. Body bag the verse, outlined in chalk. In my life seen trouble, hustle on the double. Silence on the trigger like my pick got a muzzle. Yo chick like to guzzle, bad boy stay in trouble. I only love this paper, sorry